Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It's 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, May 25th, Tuesday morning. I was happy to be here. I had a little bit of trouble getting into my show, and I had to dial in a different way. And so hopefully you can hear me, and it's streaming and everything. I've got my chat room open, and you're more than welcome to go sit in there and hang out. It's a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And, I'm just happy to be here and having some coffee, waking up. And I just wanted to continue on. Last week we were talking about self-injury, self-harm, and related to adult survivors of child abuse and issues surrounding that. So I wanted to kind of keep going and looking at that. I did find some articles actually a long time ago. I did a whole week or two worth of shows on this particular subject, but it's been a while, probably like last, who knows, it could have been January, it could have been February, I'm not sure. I've done like over 225 shows or something like that. So you have to go back through the archives to find these, and I figured we'll just go ahead and talk about it again. And I did find another couple of articles that I wanted to look at. So it's great. I'm glad that you can be here. And, I'm not a professional. I don't have any counseling certificates, therapist certificates, I'm just a person who this is one child abuse survivor to another. I'm just a person who does my own show to get information out to people and try to help people, who've dealt with child abuse issues, whether it's in their own lives or someone else that they know and they're supporting a survivor of child abuse. And it's just so important to know, that we're not alone, first of all, and that, there is help out there, and there is hope out there, and just to keep hanging on and keep, looking for that help and that hope wherever you can find it, right? It's so important. I spent years and years, just living in silence and not reaching out, not getting any help, and very unhappy about the whole situation, being born and brought up into an abusive home. It's hard. It's very, very hard to walk this road, and especially when you're on your own and you have no one to talk to, really. And it just doesn't, maybe you've just never trusted anyone enough to open up. And so that's the whole issue. I went public with my story last, basically last October is when I really went public with it in a blog, a public-facing blog on Blogger. And it was very freeing for me to do that because I had kept all this inside for so many years. And I thought, once I had written the blog, I felt like it was a release, I wouldn't have to go to the grave with this information, and people should know the truth, And so that's why, I thought I'm going to go do public speaking, to advocate for children against child abuse, to stop child abuse, and just to spread awareness and education and prevention of child abuse, right? So I thought, well, if I'm going to go public, then my story needs to be out there, and what happened to my family, right? So it's so important. So, this is one child abuse survivor to another, and I'm so glad that you can be here. Thanks for all your support, everyone who's tuning in on a regular basis. I know there's a lot of people out there who are listening and supporting me on a regular basis, and I really appreciate it. It's just awesome. So, that's why I'm doing the show, just to be one more person out there talking about child abuse issues and raising awareness and education and prevention of child abuse, and just to let people know they're not alone, right? And so, if the topics of abuse bother you, you need to turn the show off, because as a survivor of child abuse, I know things can trigger you, and if you believe that the show might trigger you, then you need to turn it off, right? So we're looking at self-harm, self-injury, self-sabotage, right? The things that adult survivors of child abuse sometimes do. They don't always do that, but sometimes they do, and it's not always the adult survivor of child abuse who will self-injure and self-harm. Other people do as well, and so it's not only related to child abuse, right? Lots of other people do it too, even though they might have grown up in awesome homes with parents who love them and care about them. Self-injury and self-harm, there's a lot of reasons for it, and so I thought we'd just take a look at it. And, so it's great. And, if you're a young person under the age of 18, I really ask that you have someone listen to the show, and an older person, an adult, and hopefully you have a parent who cares about you and cares about what you're doing and listening to online, and maybe they could okay it that you can listen to this show, because the material on here is really, it's for children, ultimately to stop child abuse and to get just to share some information that I find. But there's a lot of adult content, and I don't know where the players are and how young the people are that are listening. So I ask everyone under the age of 18 to make sure that you have permission to listen to the show. And if you don't have a parent who cares, which sadly enough quite often we don't, you can get a counselor at school, a guidance counselor, a teacher, someone to listen to an archive show. And this way they can tune into it and see if it's something that you should be listening to, right? Important because, there's all kinds of crazy people out there trying to get a hold of kids, child sexual predators and whatnot, there's millions of them online, at any given time. And they will do anything they can to get a hold of you. So that's why it's so important to keep yourself safe and keep your friends safe by telling them, and then keep your family safe, right? So you want to make sure you get the information on how to do that. It's very important. And you could save your life. You could save your friends' lives, and you could save yourself from a lifetime of misery and horror trying to get over being attacked and assaulted by a child sexual predator. It's very important. There's so many of them out there. The FBI says there's millions actually online at any given time. Millions of people who would like to hurt children. So what I want to tell you is be very, very careful what you're doing online, and do not ever give out any personal information. Don't meet these people anywhere. Don't ever assume that they're just 12 years old, they have a skateboard, they like to go to the mall. They might tell you that, but they might be, on the other end, an adult who is a child sexual predator who's just waiting to get a hold of a young person so they can use them for their own purposes and hurt them, right? So it's so important that you keep yourself safe, right? And so, this is, I'm so glad to be here and just be able to keep bringing this information out, And when I first started doing this, I had no idea how long I would be doing Blog Talk Radio and whether or not anybody would be listening, but there's almost 5,000 shows listened to now, so that's just awesome, and I really appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to my shows. That's just awesome. And when I first started doing it, I was doing like one show a week, and then I was doing 2 shows a week, and then all of a sudden I decided, hey, I'll just do 3 or 4 shows a week, and pretty soon, it's evolved into quite a few shows during the week, and so I appreciate everybody tuning in. That's just awesome. So we'll get right into it. We were looking at an article from SAFE Alternatives last week, and we've pretty much finished that up. But the information on that website is really, really good, and it's www.safefamiliesca.org, or there is also the other website that belongs to them as well, which is www.safe-alternatives.com, and SAFE stands for Self-Abuse Finally Ends, S-A-F-E, Self-Abuse Finally Ends, and Alternatives. And that's a great website. They have like a SAFE blog, webinars, news and updates. They have resources, journal articles and books, facts, interventions, referrals, lectures. They have phone numbers you can phone, 1-800-DON'T-CUT, which is 1-800-366-8282. Now, I didn't try to call that number, so I don't know if it's still working, but it's still listed on their website. And you can get a hold of them at info@selfinjury.com. So it's a great website, and I really think anybody who's experiencing, the issues regarding self-harm and self-injury should check that website out. And it's really worth taking a look at. They have some good information there. And also Help Guide has some great information. I really like Help Guide's website. So that's what we're going to look at today. Help Guide has just everything to do with life's issues, right? So Help Guide, HTTP, www.helpguide.org, has all kinds of stuff on it. Understand, prevent, and resolve life's challenges. And they're a not-for-profit group who just gets information out to people. And they said that, people are free to use their information with permission, without permission, for not-for-profit use, right? So it says reprinted with permission for personal or not-for-profit use. So they don't mind. They like getting the information out there, and you can check their website out. I really highly recommend it if you're a survivor of child abuse or domestic violence, sexual assault, anything like that, or if you're just having trouble dealing with stress in your life or drug addiction. This is kind of the website that you can go to for just about anything, parenting problems. They have so much great information on there and links and resources. It's kind of a one-stop place for people if you're looking to get some help, in a certain area in your life. And they do cover everything from eating disorders to mental disorders to everything that anybody could be experiencing at any given time, right? Having, bringing a new baby into the world, just everything. So it's a great website. I really like it. And I found this article. It's called "Cutting and Self-Injury and Self-Harm Help, Support, and Treatment." That's the name of the actual article, and at www.helpguide.org. So it's not a very long article, but it's good. I mean, however many pages long, but there's all kinds of links on there too, all kinds of information and help, right, for people who do self-injure and cut themselves, right? And this is something that, there's more people doing it than you know, and that there's numbers. There are statistics out there of how many people actually self-injure. There's a lot of people around the world, not just North America, or, Western Europe or whatever. There's lots of people who self-injure in every country. It's not just related to one certain type of person or a certain nationality or a certain country. Lots of people do it, and for many, many reasons. So, but I just thought I'd take a look at it because I know as a survivor of child abuse, we tend to we don't do it on purpose. It's just almost a need to self-sabotage. It's like, because if you grew up in a destructive or a violent home, and that's just the behavior that you learned, it's very hard not to self-destruct as an adult, right? And so, if you didn't have any help as a child growing up in an abusive home, it's very hard as an adult to not self-sabotage, right? To do things in your life that really are to your own detriment, right? So not only did you survive the abuse, right, as a child, then you go on to live these lives of, whether you're just using drugs, self-injury, self-sabotage, quitting jobs, breaking up in relationships just because it's just too hard to keep it going and maintain it. And it's really difficult because we almost self-sabotage ourselves after we've already been abused. And so we just end up with having these horrible lives. And I had to take a real serious look at this even just a few, within the last year or so, because I tend to self-sabotage my life with in job situations and different things like that. I'm so used to living in a life of kind of chaos and also, sort of misery, right? So if I don't like if I feel like I'm being persecuted at a job and people just are not being decent to me, I'll just quit, without even thinking about the consequences of the fact that I need the money. First of all, I can't afford to quit at my job, and second of all, it's hard to find another job, especially in today's economy. And also that maybe I possibly could learn how to communicate with people instead of quitting jobs. But my whole first response, my whole entire life has been to quit my job. I did have one job for 9 years, and I think it's because those people, when I was young, because they knew I was a troubled youth, and I think they really they were trying to help me out. So, I didn't get fired, but I'm sure with my behavior nowadays, I would have been fired for sure because of the stuff that I used to do there. But the thing is later on as an adult, an older adult, I tend to get angry with people and just quit the job, quit relationships, quit whatever it is. If I don't like it, then and it's because it's a self-protective measure, right? Because I'm so tired of taking abuse off people, really sick and tired of it. Took it my whole entire life, and even into my 30s with my mom still living and still being very verbal and psychologically abusive, emotionally abusive towards me. It was very difficult. Absolutely. And so now as an adult, 15 years later or so, I'm like, I just will not take any abuse off anybody else. I refuse. In the meantime, I have to think, what are my motives and why do I do what I do? And so that's the whole issue with self-sabotage. And I want to read it. Before we start this Help Guide article on cutting and self-injury, I just want to take one look at this article that I found on self-sabotage, which is more like what I do, you know what I mean? Not so much into self-injury or cutting or anything like that, even though I did want to do it. There was plenty of times that I actually wanted to hurt myself. And I kind of did it, in certain ways, but I never cut myself, but I wanted to. And I was right at the point of actually doing it when I stopped myself and said, what am I doing? You know what I mean? I've had enough abuse, you know what I mean? I'm just tired of it. There's a Survivor to Thriver manual from the ASCA. This is the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program, the ASCA. It's a great workbook, the Survivor to Thriver manual. We went through that. I spent, 3-4 weeks on it, just recently, not too long ago, just going over this Survivor to Thriver manual is really, really awesome. I really like it. I want to go through that myself when I have some time to sit down and actually do this workbook myself on my own, just in my own time. It's really good. But there is chapter 3 is all about self-sabotage. It's a very short chapter, but I thought we'd just look at it. It says, where low self-esteem is the primary feeling of the adult survivor, self-sabotage is the corresponding behavior pattern in the external world. Self-sabotage is any kind of conscious or unconscious behavior that undermines your successful functioning in the world. Self-sabotage may range from buying a lemon of a used car to losing one's checkbook, to becoming involved with an alcoholic partner, to engaging in life-threatening activities. It says you may allow yourself to be exploited by a boss or engage in physically harmful or potentially dangerous activities such as cutting yourself or engaging in unsafe sex. Typically, one's pattern of self-sabotage is closely related to one's personal issues and family history. Survivors who grew up in addictive families may self-sabotage by driving while drunk or getting caught with illegal drugs. Survivors from violent families may tend to get themselves beaten or injured. Survivors from wealthy families often find themselves losing money, getting swindled, or making bad investments. Studies have shown that survivors of child sexual abuse are more likely to be assaulted as adults. And it says self-sabotage is linked to the survivor's instinct to become re-victimized in a way that continues or replicates the past abuse. Sometimes the self-sabotage is not directed against the survivor, but rather against someone the survivor loves. For example, the adult survivor of family perpetrated sexual abuse who is now a mother may be surprised to find that her daughter is being molested by her husband or a friend of the family. In this case, the self-sabotaging behavior is the mother's inability or failure to see what is happening and to protect her child. It says reversing self-sabotage begins with building awareness of everything you do in your daily existence that sacrifices your happiness, satisfaction, and productivity. And then they go on to say that these will be discussed in this detail in step 9. So there's a whole other section to this Survivor to Thriver workbook regarding self-sabotage, and we went through that. But that is such a great workbook, and you can find it at www.ascasupport.org. And I printed the whole thing off. It's 155 pages or something like that. The first 30-something pages are devoted just to safety first for the survivor of child abuse, right? It's just all about, are you safe enough to do the workbook? There's questions and different things like that that you can go through to see if you're actually in a safe enough place in your own healing journey, to actually do the workbook, right? Because it can trigger you, and it can cause, because they ask questions and you're supposed to, we are supposed to answer those questions as honest as possible. And the ASCA, the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a More Center program, they have centers in the United States, I guess. There's none in Canada. But they have online group support. They have meetings, chapter meetings. Certain cities will host chapter meetings of the ASCA. I was hoping they would have one here because I would have joined up. They have all kinds of good stuff for people who have survived child abuse. So that website's awesome, and I would check it out. So they, they suggest that people would go through their program and or online support and use the workbook and not do that workbook alone. That's why it's such a huge issue, for survivors, so they don't become triggered and regress in their healing. So it's always good to know where you're at in your healing before you start something like that, and maybe to not be by yourself when you do it, and just actually work through the workbook with someone or with a group. That's what they suggested, was it's either the ASCA group or another group, and that way you're not by yourself and having to deal with these things on your own should you be triggered, right? Because they do ask some pretty honest questions that we're supposed to answer just as honestly, right? And it does allow us to take a look at certain things that we might not have looked at before. So, but I think that article is awesome, and I think that Survivor to Thriver manual is awesome. The whole thing is really good. So we'll move on over here to Help Guide and cutting and self-injury, because a lot of people don't understand that whole thing, and they think, why would somebody do that to themselves? And, what would cause somebody to do that to themselves? And also, and I think, because it's associated with a lot of young people, people just think it's a fad or something. It's really not a fad. It's a serious problem. And, you see somebody doing that, there's underlying reasons for it, and it's not just generally healthy, right? Nobody goes around trying to hurt themselves unless there's something wrong with themselves. So, and it might not be from child abuse. There's other psychological and mental issues at play But quite often people who have experienced abuse will go on to hurt themselves, and it's just the whole behavioral issues of, that's what you know, that's what you grew up with. The pain inside is just too much, and so, it's one way to kind of let the pain out. But there's many, many reasons for it. I'll just read right from the page. Cutting in self-injury, self-harm, help, support, and treatment. The number of young people who participate in acts of self-mutilation is growing. Although self-harm is rarely a suicidal act, it must be taken seriously because accidental deaths do occur. It's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but breaking the cycle of self-abuse is possible if you reach out to someone you trust. Finding new ways of coping with your feelings can help to tone down the intense urges you feel, which results in you hurting yourself. Recovery is a continuous process, and learning how to stop this addictive behavior is within your reach if you work at it. And it says here, who engages in self-injury? The numbers are staggering. About 2 million people in the United States are self-injurers, and approximately 1% of the population has inflicted physical injury upon themselves at some time in their life as a way to cope with an overwhelming situation or feeling. Those numbers are most likely an underestimation because the majority of acts of self-injury go unreported. So, they do know about 2 million people in the United States are self-injurers and have, but that's underreported because not very many people are going to report that. So that's the whole issue. Who knows how many people are actually doing that? In other parts of the world, the numbers are considerably higher. Self-injury does not discriminate against race, culture, or socioeconomic strata, but there is conflicting data regarding demographics. Some reference sites indicate that the majority of people who engage in this type of addictive behavior are predominantly female teenagers and young adults, while other sites indicate that both genders ranging in age from 14 to 60 self-injure. However, there is consistent agreement that self-harm has more to do with having poor coping mechanisms than anything else. And that's just it, right? I mean, if a person's in so much pain or they just can't feel anything. I know some people do self-injure because they want to feel something. They've gone so far within themselves to, because they're in so much pain that they can't feel anything anymore, and that's why they self-injure. And then I know, like even for myself, I wanted to self-injure, and I actually was going to self-injure and cut myself because I wanted people to see the pain that was in my heart, and it needed to come out somehow, right? And I was actually getting, sitting day after day after day in a serious depression and thinking, as someone in the world has to care about the pain in my heart, there has to be one person, you know what I mean? And if I show them the pain by cutting myself or gouging myself and tearing my skin, then that would show people what pain is in my heart. But I stopped myself from doing it because I realized that there wouldn't be one person on the planet that would actually care. And even if I killed myself, they wouldn't care. And that's the sad part. They would say they care, but they really wouldn't because they don't care about what happened to me as a child. They really don't care what my mom did or what my dad did to me or any of the other family members. And that's unfortunate, but it's true. Because otherwise they would be rallying around me right now with what I'm doing. They know what I'm doing, advocating against child abuse. And I went public with my story and wrote my book. And Dream Catchers for Abused Children suggested that they said, you really need to publish your story. And so Donna Shear, my publisher, she's a best-selling author and also president of Dream Catchers for Abused Children. It really saw my blog and wanted it to be out there for everybody to see it. And I didn't, I had never thought about writing a book or anything like that, but I took my blog and she let me keep it just as my story. And she did not change the words. It's all my words, and it's my story. It's my voice for my brothers and for myself. And, the whole issue is like there's family members that have seen it and they are not supporting me at all. And they know what happened. They lived in the house. But they don't care, right? But I do. One of my brothers committed suicide at the age of 33, and another brother died of a drug overdose at the age of 44 in Calgary, Alberta. And that's sad. You know what I mean? I know what they lived through. I was there. I saw it. I experienced it. I saw what my parents did to them as well as myself. And the thing is it's hard, to have that much pain in your heart and have no one care whether you kill yourself or not. Is really quite unfortunate. So I thought, why am I going to kill myself and hurt myself after living a whole lifetime of hell with these two people that really had no business having children, first of all, and then should have let us go when the government stepped in, and we should have been removed from the home. But my parents really should have let us go. because, they said, oh, please don't take our children, we'll get help, we'll get counseling and all this, right? And they didn't, and so, the abuse continued on, right? So we just fell through the cracks, but it's unfortunate because they should have just let us go. They were two very hateful people, and they hated each other, they hated their family, they hated their children. And then they would go on and feel sorry, try to make up for it and say, oh, well, no, we loved our children. But see, I already know that was a bunch of BS. They didn't have any love in their heart for their children. And I don't really think my dad even today knows what love is. I don't think he understands what he did. He's borderline schizophrenic, and I don't think he understands that his treatment of his wife was absolutely horrific. And the way she treated her children was absolutely horrific, and the way that he treated the children was horrific. See, so this is the whole issue. If people don't recognize abuse as being wrong, then they feel that what they did was just great. They were a great parent. So my parents were very, very sick. So the whole issue is I would have self-injured for no reason. And as I was sitting on the couch the last time I actually thought about killing myself or self-injuring, I realized that I wanted to fight to live. I got so angry. I was like, no one's going to care. Half of them won't even show up to my funeral. And what's the point of self-injuring, just hurting myself even more than I've already been hurt? And that's where I stopped myself. I said, this behavior's got to stop. This attitude has to stop. I need to fight to live. My brothers fought to die, and that's what I was doing. I was always continually fighting to die. And I thought, why am I fighting to die? I need to fight to live so that I can win this fight, And then I got mad, and I was like, I'm winning this fight. I don't care. I'm going to have a good life. I'm going to go on. I'm going to have a good life and try to help as many people as I can. And, my parents can just stuff it. You know what I mean? And too bad. They don't deserve anything from any of us. My mom has passed away now, but my dad is still living. But, we're good to him because we don't want to treat him like he treated us. And so that's the whole issue. It's almost a burn because it's like, you know what, we're not treating you the way that you treated us. You can't turn us into yourself. You can't create us. You can't make us into that monster that you were and that you have always been. And that's what I decided to do, was fight to live instead of die, and fight to be the exact opposite of my parents, and actually love people, love myself, love this life, and, go on to have a good life, right? So I decided to model the exact opposite behavior of my parents, which allowed love to come into my heart and allowed compassion and mercy to flow through my heart instead of hatred and evil and anger and all this other garbage that my parents put on us, you know what I mean, and raised us in. So this is the whole issue. We have a choice, as survivors of child abuse, to reach out and get help, and also to learn to love ourselves, and to learn that we do deserve a good life no matter what anybody told you, because they obviously didn't know what they were talking about. We have the right to a good life, and to seek it and to search for it. And that's why every day is a challenge to stay alive, first of all, and to find that peace, to find that hope. And no matter what it is that brings you peace in your life, that's perfect and that's great. And that's what we need to search for and to seek out, on a daily walk, right? And there's going to be hard days, there's going to be good days and hard days, and we just have to get through it, right? So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'm on. This is so great. I'm on to speak out with Mary Aguilar Barafuco on at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time tonight on her Blog Talk Radio program. It's going to be awesome. She's having me on as a guest, and that's just awesome. Victims Speak Out. And then tonight I'm also on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio here with Donna Shear, Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley, Tammy Tanko. We're all going to be on talking about the new programs that are going to be happening here with Dreamcatchers for abused children. And I hope that you will tune into those shows. That's at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then, of course, let's see, tomorrow morning I'll be back on with one child abuse survivor to another, 6 o'clock a.m. same time. So have a great, everybody. I hope you can tune into those shows. It's going to be great. The Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, we're having Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. We're having a telethon, and we're having you can put your name in for a draw. So just get a hold of me by email, whether it's here on Blog Talk Radio or Facebook or wherever you can contact me by email, or Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley on Facebook, and also here on Blog Talk Radio at the Dreamcatchers Talk Radio site. And enter your name for a chance to win T-shirts, Dreamcatchers for Abused Children T-shirts, coffee mugs, books, Dreamcatchers books, right? All kinds of stuff, CDs and whatnot, different things just to help support Dreamcatchers for abused children. So I hope that you will tune in and listen to what we have to say tonight. There's going to be some great information regarding what Dreamcatchers for abused children wants to do and it has in mind for the next, the near future. And it's really all about helping families, helping people, and helping children, mainly helping children. It's going to make a huge difference, and I think that this is going to go worldwide, right? This is huge. Dreamcatchers for Abused Children is not that old, about 3 years old, and once the funding starts happening, and we really need the public support, and we need everybody's support, and we need everybody to be a Dreamcatchers volunteer, really, to get the word out to stop child abuse, right? This is not about Dreamcatchers. It's not about Donna. It's not about me. It's not about Elizabeth Roberts-Frawley. It's not about Tammy Tanko. We're merely the voices for the children out here who are being abused every day and losing their lives every day at the hands of caregivers and parents who are incapable of looking after them. Really unfortunate. And that's the whole issue. It's not about Dreamcatchers. It's about helping children. So I hope you will tune in tonight, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio. Have a great day, everybody. You're in my thoughts and prayers, and I just hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.